Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast, where we celebrate the vibrant endurance community of New England. I'm your host, Art Trapotsis, along with my co-host, Eric Schenker.
What's happening, man? Good to see you again. Even though the internet podcast world thinks we've been doing this while we've been on hiatus for about 3 weeks. So
yes, we have.
I was at a training. I'll call it a training camp. Not really. I was supporting my wife, but I was in Florida for the past couple of weeks. And if there's one thing that my takeaway from Florida, and we'll leave all politics aside, and that is New England is by far and away the best endurance landscape, and it's far better than Florida.
Absolutely.
Man. I don't know how many I was running, brought my bike with me, my mountain bike, and I got to tell you, the roads are flat, they're straight. People drive 1,000 miles per hour with no regard for human safety. And I am happy to be back in the high 30s, low 40s, cloudy and rainy weather of beautiful New England. I'll take this 100% of the time over down there. So I'm happy to be back and recording again.
Well, welcome back, Eric. Yeah, so today's guest is Dan Fitzgerald. He's the co-founder of Heartbreak Hill Running Company, and he's also founding coach of the Heartbreakers. And he's a Nike running coach. Love to hear more about that. This is all based in Boston, but I think there are other cities involved we'll find out about. He's coached 18 charity teams that have raced Boston and Chicago, New York City marathons. He was named the best running coach in 2016 by Boston Magazine. How awesome is that? Lastly, he's a local boy. He raced D1 track at Boston College, Eric's alma mater. Currently lives in Boston with his wife, author Rebecca Pacheco, and their daughter. I did a quick Google on your wife just to see what book this was, and I stumbled onto a very interesting looking book called Still Life, The Myths and Magic of Mindful Living. I'm going to pick that one up.
That's a good one. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome, Dan. Yeah, great to have you on. Dan, you and I have known each other for I'm going to say 15 plus years from the retail world, and it's fun to have you on our little burgeoning endurance podcast. So I followed you for a long time. You know, been really, I think, from the first store. And before we jump into the retail side, before we jump into the team side, before we jump in all those things, tell us a little bit about Dan, give us some highlights, and maybe a little bit about your personal journey into the glamorous world of endurance sports.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, guys. I think my path was, like many in endurance sports, is lack of other skills, or maybe higher skills in endurance sports. I played soccer, basketball, and track in high school, and really loved basketball. And I was a defensive standout, averaged probably 2.3 points a game. And I was the big man on the team, which, I might be tall, like, for a human being, generally speaking, but not on a basketball court. And that was, my skills were clearly in track and field. So I earned a small partial scholarship to run at Boston College, where I focused on the 800 meters. And that was really my formative athletic career, was running at BC, being a part of the cross country, indoor and outdoor track teams. And that was the heart of it. That was the start of it, was the lack of playing D1 ball. That was not happening. And I wanted to play something at the highest level I could, which led me to track and field.
That's great. Well, I mean, you clearly chose the best school, not only in New England, but really in the United States. I think that we can all agree that Boston College is the greatest university here in the United States. So we'll move on from that fact to not allow for any debate in that time. But Dan, where did you grow up, Dan?
I grew up in Tewksbury, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I went at Tewksbury Memorial High School and played basketball there. That's where all the sport magic went down. We had a very athletic focused town. It was very much a football team town, hockey team town, or, in Massachusetts lore, if people care or still think about it, our hockey team was in the Elite Eight, which was a very big deal for the regions that care about hockey. And, yeah, it was definitely a sports town, and our track team was very good back then too.
Oh, that's great. Do you do any other endurance sports still today, Dan? Besides running, don't say. I know you're a big surfer, all right, and we're gonna have is surfing a endurance sport debate at some point. I just read Barbarian Days, which was an amazing book. I would highly recommend that
Great
book. For anybody. And it made me think at times, yeah, wow, surfing really is an endurance sport, and then at other times not. So what else do you like to do athletically?
Yeah, it's really it's surfing, running. Running is sort of my personal advantage in fitness. So like that's where I lean. That's where I guess I studied and cut my teeth. So that's what I use as my anchor always. And then surfing, I would argue, is not an endurance sport at all, although some endurance elements come into play. But it's a totally different thing. But that, I think, the solitude and sort of the challenge of the ocean, and I like the defining line of you're either out there in the surf or you're not. And that's, taking that step is a lot like how I think about jumping into business on your own and that kind of thing. So like that's one of those defining lines, is the people who walk on the beach and the people who are out there in that wild surf. And that's always just been a fun.
Where's your secret surf spot?
I've learned about myself. My professional personality is welcoming. I have to build a business, but as a surfer, I am definitely in probably the grumpy local category, where I don't mind. I find it embarrassing to paddle out with one other person. Unless it's my daughter, I'm loosening on these things, but I was very much raised in the surfing school of like, you don't talk about it. You go quietly where you go. And, if people are there, that's great. If you're surfing with your friends, everyone shows up in their own car.
Fair enough.
Understood.
Fair enough.
Let's dig in a little bit to the Heartbreak Hill Running Company. So if you're involved with any endurance sports in Boston, Massachusetts, or even New England, you've heard of Heartbreak Hill. How did the Heartbreak Hill Running Company come to be?
So we actually opened as South End Athletic Company in 2009. After college, I went into the surfing industry and worked as a sales rep covering, New York City North and Long Island. And my business partner, with whom I ran track, we met as incoming freshmen on the cross country cookout. And
shout out to Justin.
Shout out to Justin Burden, fellow Eagle alum. He went into accounting, Ernst & Young, rose through the ranks there up to mergers and acquisitions in Toronto. And I had a stint right after college at a running store, volunteer coaching at Boston College, and then got what was then my dream job at Quicksilver, the surfing company. We kind of partied a lot together all the time, but had our totally separate careers. And at the bottom of the economic crisis of 2009, there were retail spots available. And I was no longer working for Quicksilver, and Justin really wanted to change after, nearly a decade of accounting work. So we started South End Athletic Company as a place where I wanted sort of like style and a brand to speak primarily, and then be complemented by the best vendors in the world. And then also within those walls and with that brand have high level training. So there was, for me as a coach and athlete, I'd always, I interact with people who, if I'm at a cookout, people are like, oh, you're a runner, and people go jogging 4 miles a day for general health. And as an 800-meter runner with a background in track and field, running 4 miles a day at the same pace on the same loop is like a recipe to get slower. And I just found it appalling. So I wanted to like apply what I knew about, if you take a dash of this and add a little, a few 200s, some speed drills, a little like dynamic work on a track, once a week, you're going to feel an appreciable difference in your ability to perform, to go long and to go easy, So I just, we introduced the first free public coach speed workout in November 2009, within 2 weeks of opening the store. And that was really the catalyst for what became the Heartbreakers team right there. We opened Heartbreak Hill.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We opened Heartbreak Hill Running Company, the first one of those. at the base of Heartbreak Hill, sitting here right at mile 20. I'm upstairs from the shop, and that opened in April 2012, a week before the marathon there. So, and that's been the brand. We later rewound and changed the brand of the original store. So now it is what you see.
What's your long-term vision for the biz?
World domination. To be the brand that connects people, to themselves, to their running, to be a point of like fun and access to the sport, right? I think there are brands that are clearly built to make money, and there are brands that are built to make you feel something. Sometimes those things overlap, and I think our job is to connect people to themselves, to each other, to the sport, and do that in a way that's like honest. And obviously, we're making a living at it, so like I think we have to be good at it, but honor and respect those customers. I think about my relationship to our customers kind of like almost like a politician, where like you're asking for their vote. People vote with their money, right? It's like, it's my job to make sure that our stuff resonates, that it's not junk, and that we can connect with them as athletes. It's you can see, I think when you shop our stores, some stores have there's a basket number they're trying to raise. So there are certain products they want to sell you.
Yeah.
Where I never understood the idea of taking a business and making PT clinics sort of a focus of our business. Obviously, I love PTs. I've been injured. They help me out, but I don't see that as like, they're not my business. Like, I don't want to just like meet people because they have sore feet and we sell shoes. Like, what if we can inspire athletes to see their capacity in a greater way and like take them on a guided journey through running rather than address issues, So I think if we're doing what I hope we can do, we're inspiring the running community to do things and feel things, and guide them through things. And PTs are an important part of that journey, but for me, that's not the entry point. Like, hopefully we're doing something that affects the culture, and through that, then we can build a customer base and a brand and a business.
Yeah. So we have a rule here: no acronyms on our podcast. And even though that's a really, I think if you're listening to this, you probably know many PTs, but we're talking about physical therapists. And in the running world, where people may not realize, Dan, right? A big part of the running store business revenue does come from those physical therapist referrals, right? So I just think, just to allude to what you were kind of referring to, I know there's even physical therapists that have little prescription pads from sneaker companies that they write out. Oh, go to this running store and you should get these shoes for your.
And we've dabbled in that too. And our relationships with the physical therapists are really important. But for us, it's just not like, it's not a piece of the business model. It's not like set up our shop and then make sure we get to the PTs. It's sort of, we really want to engage with people. They are in the PT office, but where they are, like on their phone digitally, make them feel things. Like, we can connect with people in Oklahoma and all over the country by virtue of the fact that, in our context here, we have the Boston Marathon. We have the most storied, longest running marathon in the world right here in our backyard. So there are so many rich stories to tell about that and about just our running community generally. So it's really about like what the essence of our storytelling is, for me, that's
well, let's talk about that community, because you mentioned it, right? That the first team was launched within 2 weeks of the store opening. Was that always the intention? Like, did you guys always know, hey, we're going to open this store, but right away we're going to get a team going?
It wasn't a team. It was a practice, I guess I would say. It was a general public track practice. And after years of doing that, people said, oh, I want to race with could we get race shirts? And I was like, wow, you guys want to race with our stuff? Cool. We had a good crowd of people coming, and they were getting faster and really excited about that. And it wasn't until July 2014, that we formalized the Heartbreakers as a USATF, certified club. Before that, we were just a loose collective of people doing hard speed workouts. And, while it's obviously it's a business, but it didn't start any different than how I met JB. You know, it started by like going to do a hard track workout that I thought I could fit in a reasonable time for the general public, and finishing it off, and then drinking beers in the store until like we wanted to go home. And that's kind of like what track and field was like, at least on my team. I know we weren't very good, and that's related, but it was really about just like getting people faster, committed, having fun. We're in the South End, you know, it's just like kind of a cool place to be in the city of Boston. And from there, just working with charity teams for the Boston Marathon, you know, I started volunteering for Team Red Cross to write their programming for their team when they started that team back in 2011. I think maybe was their first year. I can't remember now, but the woman who started that team and spearheaded that with the BAA, her name is Karen Teller, and she just asked me. She lived on the block. She said, "Hey, if I start a team, I think it would be helpful if we get a team to get a coach. Would you be that coach?" I said, "Sure, I'd be happy to." And once I started getting those services going, it seemed very clear, like, okay, how can we turn all of these things into something that's highly valuable to people looking for training, right? Like there are lots of people training for races that aren't the marathon. So it was once I figured out how to package all that up after developing it for a long time without knowing I was developing it, it was formalized in 2014 as the Heartbreakers team.
So but what is it today, right? So
today,
started with the free speed workout. Today, we're on the way to world domination. What does the Heartbreakers look like?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. Now it's a $150 lifetime membership. You get a singlet, a hat, access to our virtual training center, weekly Coach Live Q&As with me, and a community of about 1,700 people all over the country. We have 88 semi-elite amateur level, you know, like 214 marathoner, 220 marathoner, or 150, 800 meter runners. We have about 88 of those athletes around the country, and then of the 1,600, I think we're probably looking at 42 states now, 46 states represented on the team. So it's really about digital services and connection to yourself. And then locally, we have big events. We have over 100 people at the Reggie Lewis Center every Tuesday morning. We're getting about 200 every Saturday morning for a long run. And then every store, 6:30 p.m., we'd host a speed workout just like the old one in the beginning. That's, led by a coach there. And those sessions are all free and open to the public. So it's an opportunity to see what our vibe is, how we see training. And then from there, we have a Tuesday night team only practice. We don't check IDs or anything, so you can sneak into that if you want. And that's sort of the longest, hardest version of what we do, where I don't think I can offer the public like 5 by mile on a minute rest and get it done in a timely way. But that's where I would place that kind of workout is the longest, hardest stuff we do is on that private team session. So it's really a balance of leveraging what's fun about being associated with a brand, and then also the vendors we carry, and connecting a team through like digital services, emails. They get a weekly email. We have Boston training lists, Chicago training lists, New York City training lists, and then a bunch of plans for the mile through the marathon. So I look at it kind of like a university system. There's no like required practice. There's all the things you can come to, and you kind of get what you give. Some people, running is something they like started to like and want to get a little bit better at it. Like that's right where we come in, is like, we're here to like bring you up. And then if you want a personal coach, like we don't really do that. You can interact with me on a personal level on Coach Live Q&A, but we try to get you like an 8 out of 10 out of maybe a personal coaching, and also injecting it with like fun and the elements of a brand that like just energize a place like.
So if I was interested in getting faster at a 5K and I run a couple, could I walk into your store, show up to some of your club workouts, and then be able to get coached by Dan Fitzgerald?
Yes, because I wrote those plans. So you come on in, join the Heartbreakers. You can sign up for the team. You get the singlet, all that. You get a weekly newsletter from me. I write all the workouts. And then Coach Live Q&A is like, you can go in and you can type it into a forum and leave it there, or show up when I'm there. And I just talk through whatever's on your mind. Could be anything, guidance through the plan. So it's designed to get people something more personal than like a Nike Run Club, something more, a little bit more community oriented, that they can buy into and have, in-person relationships in addition, but also have that digital component. And that's
That's fantastic. Could you just repeat your weekly?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question, because I think that's what people want to know. Because as you said, I just want to reiterate, anybody can show up to these runs with the exception of that Tuesday. So break that down, because we got a lot of folks out here that might be interested in joining one of these runs. So break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tuesday morning, Reggie Lewis Center. We rent that. That is a free session with 6 different pace groups, ranging from 17:30 5K. So we have people in there probably running 17 minutes or so, down to probably 35-minute 5K, 6 different groups. We rent the whole place, music playing, super fun, 6:30 a.m. Tuesday morning, Reggie Lewis Center in Roxbury. On Thursday nights at every Heartbreak Hill Running Company location, including Chicago, but also Cambridge, South End, and Newton. 6:30 p.m. Thursday nights, we have a coach-led speed workout that is either hills or track or fartlek style workout. And then Saturday morning is our big session, 8 a.m. in Chicago and in Boston and Newton. So not in Boston and Newton, but Boston area. Our long run is in Newton, Massachusetts, 8 a.m. That one we get around 200 people or so on an average week, and we're in a peak weeks. So the next couple weeks are going to be really, really big events. And those are tailored to our Boston Marathon training plans. So if you show up to a speed workout on Tuesday, show up to a speed workout on Thursday, and show up to Saturday, you don't need to open any of our training documents ever. You can just go on 2 easy runs, 3 easy runs, and you will be right on plan, because we serve our beginner and intermediate athletes long run routes every single Saturday. So it's a lot of like logistical stuff, but if you go to heartbreak.run and search any of our training, we have free Boston Marathon training. So there's a separate, not Heartbreaker related, but there are obviously Heartbreakers in it, like 1,600 people training under our Boston Marathon training. That includes like 500.
And your workouts are year round?
All year round. Yep. So once the long runs for Boston are over, we just switch it over to like our 10-mile signature firehouse loop, which is pulled straight from the locker room of Boston College. The starting line isn't there anymore. It's at Heartbreak, but it's the same exact run we used to do in college. It's 10 miles on the nose, and that's what we switched to. And then once it's usually Memorial Day weekend is when our Chicago training starts. That's usually 20 weeks from Chicago. And then we'll start mapping those runs once again to the beginner and intermediate Chicago plans. And that is in both Newton, Massachusetts and Chicago that would be running those parallel programs.
That's amazing. I think this is what we aspire to hopefully introduce people to with this podcast, right? All of these resources. And like you said, really for the most part free. And then I think if people were to go there, they're going to want to naturally get engaged and join the club and go from there.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I just want to offer what people want, like I don't know who's on the club. I mean, some people I do know, they'll tell me, or, it's not about getting them to even transfer into being in the club. If it's not for them, it's not for them. But if people want more, we have that option too. If you just want to show up on Saturdays, that's a great option. If you want to just follow along digitally with the free Boston Marathon training in Columbus, Ohio, that works too. For me, it's really just like meeting people where they are with something that will help them along their journey. And that's like a whole host of things that Heartbreak offers.
What's Dan's favorite workout? And then what's your favorite for the athletes? And then what are the ones that maybe they might dread the most when they see it on the calendar?
I am not working out too hard right now, but my personal fitness has changed to running whatever amount of time I have over to Cold Spring Park here and doing some like calisthenics. So I started doing push-ups, chest-oriented things one day, in the middle of the run over there, do those things, run back, and then doing pull-ups and whatever the other day, and just alternating my days like that. So every day I'm doing some upper body strength, but I'm running over there. After the pandemic, I gave up my gym membership and I haven't gone back. I just wear gloves and still work out outside, and it's been really fun. And then I try to, just because of that 800 meter history, stay in touch with my street cred. So I try to do some sort of like speed drills. So yesterday I did, 2 days ago, I did like 20 meters of bounding uphill and then transition that into like 60 meters of sprinting from the bounding times 4. And that's just enough to keep me sharp. And then, keep the pace try to keep the pace pretty spicy if I can.
I thought you were going to say something like 18 by 400.
No, not, I just want to keep going. I don't want to break. I don't want to not be doing it.
There's a phrase that I hear a lot now, and I really love it. It's called health span.
Yes.
Right. Which is about just being healthy longer, not necessarily living longer. And there's got to be something in there about run span, right? Yes. Which is a subset of that health span, which is to say, I just want to keep running and feel good. Don't really care as much about going too fast. And there's and art that's no different for cycling, right? Like we just want to cycle span and run span and swim span and do all of those things as long as we can. So rewinding a little bit, Dan, a lot of the let's say these planets orbit around the sun, which is the Boston Marathon, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, obviously we're here in the Boston area or New England area. Your store and team is Heartbreak Hill. That's the Super Bowl, right? Can you talk a little bit about the Boston Marathon specifically? What is that week? You spoke to the training plans already, but I'm really interested in that Super Bowl week of events. I know a little bit about it, but I think people would be interested to hear about all the things that happen around that event, culminating with what the experience is at mile 20.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, it's chaos for us. That's our pinnacle week. All eyes are on us, so everybody's working. It's all hands on deck. For me personally, I'm always doing like speaking engagements or hosting, trying to do as many kickoff speeches as I can for my charity teams. And then, every brand in the world sets up a shop on Newbury Street. And there's some that are here all the time and some that set up, and every pro runner is here. It is like, the BAA takes over the whole downtown area. The roads are shut down in certain directions. It's not like other places where you can go to Chicago and be like, oh, is something going on this weekend for their marathon? In Boston, you're like, I can't move here. Like what, this is a run. This city is a road race. It's pretty cool. And it's really, really special. And, from my perspective to see people come into town and get to meet people who are experiencing Heartbreak Hill for the first time. A lot of people will come in and say, that's it. Did I miss it? And I'm like, nope, it's that one. Like that's everything you've ever heard is that 600 meters at about a 4% grade. That's it. that's everything. We created an activation that I could just call Heartbreak Tours, where I had the first year I had Kira D'Amato on the bus with me. We rented a bus, like a small like limo bus, party bus, and drove people from Heartbreak Hill Running Company at mile 20 to the top of Heartbreak Hill, which is about mile 20 3/4 and back down. So just to show people like what it actually is from out of town. And we just had that bus going all day long. I was their tour guide. I told them the legend of how it got its name. And then last year we did it with Galen Rupp, and it was just really fun to have people like sitting on a small party bus with these high level pros who've had, Galen's been second here, with these, and that's kind of the spirit of the weekend, right? You're going to bump into the pros. You're going to channel all the history and all the energy of the current moment too. So it's really.
That's very, very cool.
It feels harder than that during the race, Dan. And
yes,
let's make this about me. How did I look when I came by and gave you the high?
You look good because you're passing people. You did it like an expert. All my Heartbreakers know, like, you got to cheer and go nuts. You got to muster. You just have to muster a good 50 meters here, and then you can, right? Go back to crashing and burning.
Oh my God! No,
we've had so many people tell me the stories of like where they have epic photos. They're pointing at us, and then they talk about how they were like so dead, and like it was after that moment that they completely collapsed. lots of people take the energy and get the boost, but I mean, it's not the hill that makes it hard. It's that it's mile 20.
But I will say, I mean, it is for anybody that has run by the store, that mile 20 moment, and if they're lucky enough, and I was lucky enough to know you and some folks and to see some smiling faces and some cheers, it's hard to explain, and it's a really powerful moment, and you have created an incredible environment along a very incredible route. So you should feel it is a unique experience, and it's a special moment that you should be really proud of, and I know it means a lot to all the Heartbreakers out there.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I am in the weeds of like organizing all those things I talked about, and my job is to remain steady and keep people who are freaking out really calm, and just be the person who can absorb their anxiety and give it back to them as calm. And but that day is different, right? Like people are like, wow, you were so excited, and you can't help but like feel the emotion of the day, and give it back to the people who are putting it on the line. I think it's such a really special experience to see all of the different like levels of humanity on display that day. It's really really special. It's like every kind of person is out there, and every person has their own story for why they're doing it, and it means so much to all of them. So it's really a special thing to like be right on the sideline engaging with them for 6 hours, 7 hours. We stay out here from the first wheelchair athletes through. I try to stay at least through the sweet bus, and usually a little bit after, because there's still people going, and they really appreciate that engagement. So yeah, it's a really special connection with the athletes on that day in particular. There's nothing like it.
On the topic of Boston Marathon, I'm going to speak on behalf of the cyclists in the room. Are you familiar with the midnight ride?
I am, yes. I've never done it.
So starts at midnight, go to the start line, you ride the Boston Marathon route. It's actually incredible. Everyone's got their lights on. It feels like it's sort of daytime, but it's, like you're finishing at maybe, 1:30 or 2 in the morning, and then you're riding back home, and it's quite an experience, and I would recommend doing that for the non-runners listening out there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Beyond Boston, Dan, right? Are there any other, you're a Tewksbury guy, any other events in New England like can't miss, or Heartbreakers can't miss? We learned about a super cool event a couple weeks ago, the free Millinocket Marathon from I know you know the guys over at Notch. Any other hidden gems like that you maybe based on your surfing mentality you don't want to tell us about?
Running's very different. That's one of the different points of difference. And my hidden gem is far from hidden. I think the Harpoon 5 miler is such a good balance of, a little bit of friendly competition and a big party after. That's a race that our team has really rallied around for that reason. I think everybody thinks about Boston, associates us with Boston, the Boston Marathon, that is. But that's a lot to take on, right? It owns your life for 5 months at least, right? And the Harpoon 5 miler, you can fake your way through it. You can have fun. You can run it fast. You don't have to run it fast. If you're looking for a 5 mile PR, it tends to be a great course. Everybody seems to run very fast there. Whether or not it's short, I don't know. They say it's not, but everybody seems to run well there, and just the party's super fun. So that's definitely one of our team's biggest rallying events, where we kind of take it over.
If and when I get back into running, I will put that one on the calendar.
It's worth it. It's a good one.
Dan, can we talk about content creators, and specifically the Love Squad? What is the Love Squad? Can you talk about that program?
Yeah, the Love Squad is our NIL program, and I would not use that acronym, except I don't remember what it stands for.
NIL stands for Name, Image, and Likeness, and it's a way for college athletes to earn money by promoting products and services, companies like Heartbreak.
Well, the rule change that allowed anyone to sponsor collegiate athletes and pay them. Once the rule changed, we created an opportunity for collegiate athletes to be tapped in with us and use their skills and for content creation, with a Heartbreak lens. So for us, Justin and I are both collegiate athletes. There was no celebration of collegiate running beyond, your parents and other athletes at a track meet. And, to be able to have a brand that reaches collegiate athletes all around the country and celebrates their performances has been super, super fun.
Do they apply to be
Yep,
associated
they
with
apply.
that?
We open a spring semester and fall semester. When it's open, we put it up on TikTok and Instagram that applications are open. They send us their profile. We check out their athletic history and see like who's going to be a good fit. So that's been really, really fun because we've been able to go do heartbreak activations at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships in Austin last year. We went to Oklahoma last year for the cross country D1 D1 championships there. This year was in Virginia. We went down there. So it's really been a fun way to like enliven what enlivened me about running in that collegiate market.
I've enjoyed it, right? Just as a consumer of the content, Dan, like I would say it's really fun, right? Just also maybe knowing you and Justin a little bit, but it adds a unique element to the community to see the young. I have kids in college, so I can say the younger folks engaging with the brand and the way that they're treating running and the excitement. So I think I'm glad we asked the question because I really think the Love Squad is a cool group, and
How do we find the Love Squad on the socials?
They are just tapped into Heartbreak.run. So if you go there and go to the reels, anything, like some of them are going viral for just doing what they do. For me, it was a real inflection point after, into the pandemic as to like how we're going to evolve as a brand. Are we going to be 45 years old? I have a 6-year-old. Are we going to be a brand? We were when I was 30 and I started the company, I was in the city, living there, single, and had that lifestyle. And we were a brand for that then. I didn't want to become a brand that just reflects what's going on in my life. It was really important that we become a brand that is a brand. I didn't want to just be a person who owns a store. I want a major separation between me and the brand, even though I'm the primary spokesperson. I think it's important that the brand means something to other people that isn't related to me at all. And the Love Squad has really shown me the opportunity for it to resonate beyond. It really means something to young kids who, many of them don't know who I am, which is great. That's how I want it to be. I'm more excited about the people I don't know wearing my shirts than the people I do know.
I know that feeling. Yeah. I know that feeling. Hey, I don't know that guy, and he's wearing that brand that that's pretty cool. Well, that was a good mush. You got a little mushy there, so I'm going to segue to a little bit mushy conversation here, right? And that as many of us probably do, we listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to one this past weekend, and it ended with, okay, guest, what are you grateful for? And I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting question, but I don't really want to know the mushy stuff, Dan, about what you're grateful for. I want to know, what are you grateful for as it relates to the endurance world? And this is the first time we're asking the question, so there's no right or wrong answer, but I'm like, are you thankful for a piece of tech? Are you thankful for this type of nutrition? I can't imagine not having this, plantar fasciitis sock that I wear. Whatever it is, like, what are you grateful for, Dan, when it comes to the endurance world?
It's cheesy, but it's the friendships. When I think about, my business partner is, my best friend coming out of college. Like all the guys who if I've known someone for 10 years or 12 years, I still think of them as a new friend because they didn't run track with me in college. It's really like the depth of the relationships formed there are formative for me as a human being. And most of my gratitude is that I still can do it, that I can still run fast when I want. And like, that is always
nice.
Health is a spectrum. I think we all know that. And I'm very grateful for the ability I have now, because it's not going to be around forever, right? So I just that's the biggest one for me.
Art, what about you?
I'm grateful for the New England endurance community because there's so much to be able to get into, especially in the Boston area. I can go swimming at Walden Pond with the group. I could go, for a run with the Heartbreakers. We could go to Conti's Bikes out here in Lexington and do a group ride. I mean, there's tons of group rides in my area. I'm, leaning towards the cycling front, and there's just an opportunity almost every day of the week, and that's what I'm grateful for.
I mean, you guys took this in, you guys made it mushy, and I didn't want it to be mushy. I'm grateful for vanilla milkshakes from McDonald's and Mexican Coke, right? Like, that's the reason I work out, is in order to enjoy those things after a hard workout. So you guys are a bunch of softies, and I clearly am focused on sugar in that respect. So that's what I'm grateful for, and I don't think I could succeed in the endurance world if it wasn't for, like I said, vanilla milkshakes, and very specifically Mexican Coke, which is the not high fructose corn syrup, but true cane sugar. And
So no gummy bears?
I mean, gummy bears are sort of every day. I don't treat myself after a workout with gummy bears. That's just more part of the staple diet in the household.
So Dan, final question. Yeah. Why is it that New England has such an awesome endurance culture and has produced so many incredible endurance athletes?
I'd say it's the people and their like commitment to excellence. I think the endurance community reflects the professional community in many ways, right? Like, it's high performing educators, like the best universities in the world, the best hospitals in the world, biotech sector, like all the things that make this area are like that commitment to excellence. If you engage with these people, as I know you guys do, all of the applications that make for groundbreaking science is what they do when they're at work. And then they just do it for their sport. Like, it all gets channeled right into the sport where they're obsessive.
That is a fantastic answer.
And committed. And it's like all of the things that make this place excellent is channeled into the endurance world for their quote unquote like relaxation and off time, even though it is so far from that, but it's exactly the same thing. I think that's what makes it so awesome and so competitive and but also like welcoming and curious, like all the things that make this place a leading edge, economy, I think make it a leading edge endurance community.
Well, and Dan, you're a huge part of that community after hearing the story today. I was not aware of the Heartbreakers before we chatted, and I am just blown away by this community that you've developed and created.
Yeah. No, for awesome. Real. And, before we kind of wrap up, Dan, anything, I mean, I don't want to say you've plugged a lot. You've helped enlighten us to the community, but is there anything specific you would like to talk about with, as it relates to Heartbreakers or the Heartbreak charity, whatever it is?
Everything for us is on heartbreak.run. We try to get it all out there on our website or our Instagram, and we try to keep them all the same. So if I say heartbreak.run and you go look for it in your web browser or on Instagram or on TikTok, you'll find the same place. It's consistent branding there. So you can find out more about everything we do there, and hopefully, there's something there that lands and, keeps you coming back and engaging with us, however that is, even if it's just for runs once a year for the big ones, or once a week, or 3 times a week. It's what we do it for.
That's great,
so.
Dan.
I got to come join you for one of these.
Dan, thank you for being a guest on the New England Endurance Podcast. It was really great catching up with you and in a really enjoyable conversation. And before we part ways, we got to let you know that there will be a sweet treat coming your way from Lark Fine Foods, because, ready for this? Nothing helps ease the pain of heartbreak than cookies. What do you think of that? That was pretty good, right? Like how do I segue those two together?
I actually love Lark cookies, so I'm a big fan. So that's exciting.
Oh, that's great. Great to hear.
Hey, there we go.
They're a trusted sponsor, and there'll be there cookies on the way to the office, or I can send them to the home so that the staff doesn't, pilfer them before they
office is good. I like to hook up the team.
Yes. Thank you to all our sponsors. Lark Fine Foods, a 100% women-owned specialty food company, baking delicious small batch cookies inspired by grown-up consumers with sophisticated tastes. And also The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness. And for those of you that want to learn more about Heartbreak Hill Running Company, you can find them on the Instagram, and we'll tag you in our post, Dan, in your community.
Cool.
Our Instagram page is @NewEnglandEndurance. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. And until next time, keep pushing your limits, drop some hammers, get out there and explore the beautiful terrain of New England.